The frozen wilderness and the laughing child. The snow was deep and endless. Cold winds blew without mercy. Every step the man took felt heavier than the last. His clothes were torn, his hands were red, and his lips were dry and cracked. He had no food, no map, and no hope. He was just walking, trying to survive one more hour, one more day. He had crashed on this frozen alien planet 2 days ago. His ship was gone, burned by fire from the sky. His team was dead. Now, he was the only human left in the middle of nowhere. The land around him was white and silent. Only the sound of the wind and his slow breathing filled the air. Then, something strange happened. That he saw small footprints in the snow, barefoot, light, almost dancing. He followed them, confused. No creature could walk barefoot in this cold. It didn't make sense. Still, he followed. That's when he saw her. A small child. Not human. Her skin was silver blue. Her hair was soft and white like snow. Her eyes glowed a faint purple, and she was laughing. Yes, laughing, right in the middle of the freezing snow. She sat on a rock, not shaking, not crying, just laughing. The man froze in place. She looked up at him and smiled, as if she had been waiting. He took a step closer. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, not sure if she would understand. She didn't answer. She just tilted her head and giggled again. Her voice was soft, but it echoed strangely through the cold air. The man looked around. There were no buildings, no ships, no other life forms. Just snow, ice, and silence. Where had she come from? He knelt down, slowly. "Are you lost?" She stared at him, then pointed to his nose and laughed louder. The man didn't know what to do. The child wasn't wearing shoes, gloves, or even a proper coat. Yet she didn't seem cold. Her skin wasn't turning blue like his. She didn't look hurt or scared. In fact, she seemed amused by everything. His breath fogging in the air, the snow sticking to his beard. Even the way he walked, he tried offering his coat. She stepped back and giggled again, hiding behind a tall ice rock. The man sighed. "This is not normal," he whispered to himself. But still, he couldn't leave her alone. He couldn't just walk away from a laughing child, even if she wasn't human. He reached into his bag and pulled out a cloth wrap. Slowly, carefully, he walked closer. She watched him like a curious bird, bright, alert, and a little wild. When he finally got near, she didn't run. She let him wrap her in the cloth, though she didn't stop laughing. Her eyes sparkled like tiny stars. He picked her up. She was light, like she weighed nothing. But even in his arms, she didn't stop smiling. She touched his beard and made a little squeaking sound, as if it made her happy. As he walked, she hummed a tune. It wasn't any language he knew, but it sounded soft and peaceful. "Where is your family?" he asked her. "Your home." No reply. Just a soft laugh, like she thought his question was silly. The snowstorm grew stronger. The man could barely see ahead. His legs hurt, and his back ached. But the child in his arms didn't mind. She seemed to enjoy the ride. Then, he heard it. A low sound. A growl. It came from somewhere behind the white fog. He stopped walking. He turned slowly. Another growl. Then another. The child looked around too. She didn't look scared. In fact, she smiled again. The man's heart beat faster. He knew that sound. It was the sound of hunters. Of large, hungry beasts. He stepped backward. Carefully. The snow behind him was soft. He almost slipped. Then he saw them. Shapes moving in the snowstorm. Large, white lions with golden eyes. Their fur blended into the snow. Their teeth shone. They moved slowly, like they were enjoying the chase. The man clutched the child tighter. She laughed again. Not loud, but clear. Like she didn't understand the danger. Or maybe she didn't care. The lions began to spread out. Surrounding him. He whispered, "Stop laughing." But she didn't stop. She looked into his eyes and touched his cheek. She wasn't scared at all. The man looked around. There was no shelter, no weapon, nothing. Only snow, wind, and death. And in his arms, a child who laughed when she should have screamed. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. And yet, somehow, he kept walking forward. Not because he believed he would survive, but because the child in his arms, laughing in the face of lions, was depending on him. Even if she wasn't afraid, he was, and the snow was about to turn red. Lions in the snow. The wind screamed louder now, and the snow hit like knives. The man's arms shook as he held the alien child tighter against his chest. Her small body was warm, but her calmness was frightening. She was still smiling as if this moment was a game. But it wasn't. Death was moving through the snow. It had teeth. From the white fog, the lions stepped forward. They were not normal lions. Their fur was thick and white like the snow, but their eyes glowed gold. Their muscles were large, built for cold hunting. And worst of all, they were quiet. No roaring, no charging. They moved like shadows, silent and slow, full of patience. The man counted 5 of them. Maybe more were hiding behind the blowing snow. His legs trembled, not only from cold but from fear. He knew he could not run fast in the snow. He knew he could not fight 5 beasts alone. He had only a long stick from the wreckage, a metal rod, barely strong enough to block a single bite. He whispered to the child, "Stay down. Stay quiet." She blinked at him and tilted her head, curious. Then she touched his face and whispered something in a soft, musical tone. He couldn't understand her words, but they made his skin feel strange. Warm, almost. The first lion took a step closer. Its paws made no sound in the snow. Its eyes locked on the man, and its breath came out in sharp clouds. The others followed, fanning out slowly like they had hunted like this many times before. The man backed away, his boots slipping a little. He found a small drop in the land, a broken rock wall from some ancient structure. It gave him a small bit of cover, not much, but enough to place the child down behind it. "Hide here," he said, placing her gently on the ground. "Don't move." She still smiled, but finally, she sat still. Then he stood up. He held the rod with both hands. He had never fought a wild beast before. He had no plan, but he couldn't let the lions get to her. One lion leaped. The man swung the rod with full force. It hit the lion's head, making a sharp clang sound. The beast fell sideways into the snow, but not for long. It stood again quickly, shaking off the hit like it was nothing. Blood dripped from its mouth, but its eyes were even more focused now. The others circled tighter. The second lion struck. Next, this one aimed low, biting for his leg. The man jumped back, but not fast enough. Teeth caught his boot and tore the fabric. He shouted in pain and kicked hard. The lion let go but didn't back off. It just waited again. The snow was red now. His blood mixed with the white ground. From behind the rocks, the child peeked with wide eyes. But there was no fear in them. She looked more interested than scared, as if she was watching something familiar. The third lion came from the side. This one didn't jump. It walked up slowly, step by step, never blinking. The man pointed the rod at it, trying to make himself look bigger, stronger. But his arms were weak. His chest was heaving. Blood dripped from his leg. The lion paused. It stared at him for a long time. Then it did something strange. It stepped back. Not much. Just one step. The other lion stopped too. The man noticed it, but didn't understand. Why did they hesitate? Then he heard a soft sound behind him. A hum, almost like a song. He turned slightly. The child was standing now. She had climbed out from behind the rock. Her tiny feet touched the snow, but she didn't shiver. Her hair moved gently, even though the wind was gone. Her eyes glowed brighter now. She raised one hand, slowly, toward the lions. The largest lion growled low, like a warning, but it didn't move forward. None of them did. The child whispered something again. The lions turned their heads, one by one, first left, then right, as if confused. Then they slowly, quietly backed away. Not ran, not attacked. They just left. The snow swallowed their shapes, and silence returned. The man dropped the rod. His hands were shaking. He looked at the child, unable to speak. She smiled and walked toward him. She placed one hand on his bleeding leg. Her touch was warm again, strangely warm. The pain in his leg began to fade. The man stared at her. "What are you?" he whispered. She just giggled again. But this time, he didn't hear just laughter. He heard power. And something else. Something ancient. Something dangerous. But she had saved him. And now he owed her his life. The human bleeds, but refuses to fall. The snow no longer felt cold. It felt heavy, pressing on his shoulders like guilt. The man stood there, breath short, heart pounding, blood soaking through the side of his torn pants. Every heartbeat throbbed through the wound. His grip on the metal rod had weakened, but he refused to drop it. Not now. Not after what just happened. The lions had walked away. No, more than that. They had yielded. And the only reason they had left was because of the child. That quiet, strange, alien child who now stood next to him like she had simply watched a passing show. She hadn't run. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't even blinked when he bled in front of her. He glanced down at her, still confused. Her skin shimmered faintly in the white light. She didn't speak, but she touched his side again, and the pain dulled slightly. Not gone, but less sharp. That he wanted to ask her what she did, how she sent the beasts away, how she made the pain softer. But before he could speak, the silence broke again. This time, it wasn't lions that it was the sky. A loud rumble echoed above. Something passed through the clouds, casting a fast-moving shadow over the snow. The man raised his head, eyes squinting against the brightness. The child didn't move. A black object. No, a ship was flying overhead. Large, angular, and silent. It wasn't human-made. He knew that from the shape, from the way it moved like a predator above the mountains. It scanned the area with blinking blue lights. The child looked up and frowned. That was the first time he saw her expression change. She didn't laugh. She didn't smile. She looked angry. The ship slowed. It hovered far in the sky, as if sensing something. The man whispered, "Are they looking for you?" The child didn't answer, but her silence told him everything. He grabbed the rod again and took a step forward. His leg hurt more now. His body was cold again. The warmth from her touch had faded. His hands were shaking, but he knew, if they came, whoever they were, he had to protect her. Not because he understood her, not because she had saved him, but because she was alone, just like he was. Suddenly, a sharp sound cracked through the air. A beam of light burst from the ship and scanned the snow-covered valley. It passed near them, but didn't lock on. The man froze. The child grabbed his hand. Her tiny fingers were warm again. Her eyes were glowing, not just soft purple now, but bright and full of warning. She looked up at him and said one word. He didn't understand it, but it felt like a command. Then the wind moved again, but not naturally. It came in a strong circle around them, pushing snow up into a white storm. The ship above blinked its lights faster. Its skin beam passed over them and missed. The storm had hidden them, but the storm wasn't natural. She was doing it. The man looked at the child again. Her lips were pressed together. Her small arms were raised slightly. She was making the wind spin, making the snow hide them. Her body glowed like a moon under the clouds. The ship hovered longer, then turned and flew away. The snow calmed again. The child dropped her arms and fell to her knees. Her glow faded. She was breathing hard. The man rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer, but she didn't collapse either. She looked at him again with calm eyes. But now, there was no laugh. No giggle. Just tired silence. The man picked her up gently. "You saved me again," he whispered. "I don't even know your name." She rested her head on his shoulder. His leg was still bleeding, but he kept walking, step after step, through the snow. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew something now. This was not just a lost child. This was not a game, something. Or someone wanted her. She was dangerous, yes, but to the right person. Maybe she was hope. Or maybe she was a weapon. But whatever she was, he would not let go. Asterisk the child's secret power. The man was limping now, each step more painful than the last. Blood had dried along his leg, stiffening his movements, but he didn't stop. The child rested quietly in his arms, no longer laughing, no longer glowing. Her silence was heavier than the snow around them. It made him nervous. He kept looking down at her, hoping for a smile, a word, something. But her eyes were shut. He didn't know if she was sleeping or weak from what she did. But deep inside, he knew one truth. She had saved him. Twice. First from the lions. Then from the ship. Whatever she was, she had power. Real power. But it came at a cost. She was just a child, even if she wasn't human. And now that child looked like she was fading. The man spotted a half-frozen cave up ahead, a crack in a rock wall covered in snow and ice. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. He forced himself toward it, teeth gritted, leg dragging behind him. When he reached the cave, he gently laid the child down against the smooth wall inside. She was cold to the touch now. He panicked. "No, no, don't do this," he said. He pulled the cloth tighter around her. He sat beside her and took her small hand into his. "You can't just go quiet after all that." She stirred, only slightly. Then her fingers twitched. Her eyelids moved slowly, and her voice, barely more than a breath, came out in a soft alien word. He didn't understand, but it calmed him. Then something strange happened that a faint light began to glow around her hand. Not just light, a pulse, like a heartbeat that he watched in awe as her chest began to rise and fall more steadily. The glow spread, from her hand to her arms, then her face. Her cheeks turned a soft pink. Her silver blue skin shimmered like sunlight on water. The man held his breath. She opened her eyes, slowly. The purple color was deeper now, brighter than before that he whispered, "What are you?" She looked at him, not like a child this time, but like someone ancient. Someone who had lived through more than she should. Then she raised her hand, and, without touching him, his leg began to feel warm that he blinked that he looked down. His leg, it was healing. The skin was closing. The pain disappeared like it had never existed. He didn't speak. He couldn't. He just watched in silent shock as her power worked through him like a wave. His breathing slowed. His heart calmed. The cold didn't bite anymore. When it ended, she let out a deep breath, as if she had pushed part of her life into him. He was completely healed, and she was completely stilled. He shook her gently. "Don't go," he whispered. Then, once again, she moved. Slowly she sat up. Her expression was blank, like her mind was far away. But she was awake. "You're not just a child, are you?" the man said quietly. She turned her glowing eyes to him and pointed to her own chest, then to his. Her finger tapped softly on his shirt. Then she smiled, just a little. Not her usual giggle, but something different. Sadder. Wiser. He understood only one thing. She had given him her energy. Not all of it, but enough to show who she really was. A healer, a protector, or maybe something even greater. He looked around the cave. It was cold, but safe for now. But if ships were looking for her, and beasts listened to her, then this planet was not just a frozen wasteland. It was hiding secrets. And she was one of them. He looked back at her. "Why me?" he asked. She stared at him with eyes too deep for her age. Then she leaned forward and placed her forehead softly against his chest. For a moment, he felt warmth, not just in his body, but in his heart. It wasn't an answer. It was a bond. Whatever this child was, she had chosen him. And that meant others would come. To take her, to use her, to control her. But they would have to go through him first, because now she was his to protect. She was no ordinary child. The man didn't sleep that night, not fully. He sat inside the frozen cave with the child beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. Her breathing was soft, steady now, but his thoughts were loud. The fire inside him was not from heat. It was from questions. Endless, burning questions. Who was she? Why did she choose him? How did a child send lions running and blind a warship? Without speaking a single word? She had healed his wounds without touching his skin, and even now, his body felt stronger than before. He should have been weak, broken, scared. But instead, he felt ready. He looked down at her. She looked peaceful. Too peaceful for someone who had nearly died. Too peaceful for someone being hunted. Her soft silver skin and glowing purple eyes didn't match her power. But that was the thing. She didn't match anything. She was not just a survivor. She was a secret. The wind outside howled, and a deep sound rolled across the frozen sky. He stood slowly, careful not to wake her. At the edge of the cave, he peered outside. The clouds had turned red. Lights blinked in the sky. Not natural lights. Not stars. Ships. 3 of them, smaller than the one from earlier, but flying low. Scanning. They were getting closer. He stepped back into the cave. His heart beat fast. He looked at her again. She was awake now, looking right at him, as if she already knew. "You're not just important," he said quietly. "You're wanted." She sat up and nodded once. "By who?" he asked. She pressed 2 fingers to her lips, then pointed upward. The message was clear. Silence. Then she pointed at herself, then at him, and then to the ground beneath them. He frowned. "They want you," he guessed. "But you want to stay? With me?" She nodded again. "But why? What am I to you?" She looked at him, long and deep. Then, she opened her mouth, and for the first time, he heard her speak in clear, soft English. "Because you didn't run." His heart skipped. Her voice was calm, but powerful. Each word felt heavy, like it had waited years to be said. "You bled," she continued. "For me." The man swallowed hard. "That's what people do when someone's in danger." "No," she said, shaking her head slowly. That's what you did. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. The child looked toward the mouth of the cave, where the snow was starting to turn blue from the passing lights of the ships. They will come for me, she said. Who are they? My creators, she whispered. His blood ran cold. You're created? She nodded. I was made. I escaped. You found me. Are you a weapon? He asked. Her eyes glowed again, just for a second, then faded. I was, she answered. But I chose not to be. The words felt like stone in his chest. She stood up now. Small, delicate, glowing, but stronger than she looked. She walked to him, placed her hand on his chest, and said, You're not like them. That's why I trust you. He dropped to one knee. I'll protect you, he said. You will die if you do, she replied. He looked up into her glowing eyes. Then I die standing between you and them. For the first time, she smiled again, not a child's giggle, but something deeper, warmer. She raised her hand and placed it against his forehead. A light entered his mind. Not pain, not fear, but knowledge that in seconds, he saw what she was, what she had been made for, what she had escaped. He saw worlds burning, cities falling, ships torn apart by her mind alone. He saw her surrounded by scientists, wires, and machines. He saw how she broke the system meant to control her. And he saw what she ran from, the galaxy's most dangerous force. Her creators weren't scientists. They were rulers. They built her to be a weapon of fear. And now she was free, but only as long as someone could keep her that way. The light faded from his mind. He dropped to one hand, gasping for breath. She knelt beside him. Now you know, she said. He nodded slowly. Now I know. The ships outside were landing. The ground began to shake. She looked toward the cave entrance that he stood beside her. And together, they waited. The hunters come. The ground trembled with growing weight. A deep hum echoed through the frozen valley as 3 black ships lowered from the red-tinged sky. Their lights flashed like eyes in the snowstorm, scanning every inch of the land. The cave where the man and the child waited was small, almost hidden, but not enough to stop them. The man stood with the metal rod still in hand. It felt useless now, like a toy against thunder. But he held it anyway, because it reminded him of the moment he chose to fight for her, and he would not let go of that choice. The child stood beside him, silent, still. Her glow had faded again, but her eyes remained bright. She watched the sky, not with fear, but with focus, like she was remembering something, or waiting for it to return. Then came the voice that it wasn't from a mouth. It rang through the air, mechanical and cold, like metal slicing into his ears. Biological Unit 7 detected. Power signature confirmed. Do not resist. The man looked down at the child. She didn't blink. Her face was blank. He whispered, Is that what they call you? She shook her head once. That's what they made me. The voice came again, louder this time. Surrender the unit. This is a retrieval, not a negotiation. The man stepped forward, placing himself between her and the cave's mouth. She's not a unit, he said, though he knew they couldn't hear him. She's a child. Outside, the ships opened. Dark figures stepped out, tall, covered in black armor, their movements smooth and cold. They had no faces, only masks. Their weapons glowed faintly with the same color as the child's eyes. She tugged on the man's sleeve. They will hurt you, she said softly. I know, he replied. They'll kill you. I know that too. She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. Why are you still here? Because you're still here. Then the ground split. A blast of energy hit the snow, melting a wide path toward the cave. Trees cracked and fell. Rocks shattered. Snow exploded into the sky. The hunters were coming. The man grabbed the child's hand. If we run, they'll follow. They always do. Then we stand. She stared at him. You will die. I'm not leaving you. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped forward, past him, toward the cave entrance. Her small feet sank into the snow. The wind curled around her like it recognized her presence. Her hands slowly rose. The soldiers paused. The leader stepped forward and raised his weapon. She whispered something. The man couldn't understand it, but the wind did. It roared. Not like before. This time, it screamed. The snow twisted into a spiral. The trees bent backward. The light in the sky turned purple. The soldiers raised their weapons, but they couldn't aim. Their suits sparked. Their boots slid. The ice cracked under them. Then it happened. The child opened her eyes wider than before and released something that a pulse of silent energy rolled across the valley. The ships trembled, their lights flickering out one by one that the soldiers froze in place. Their suits glowed brightly, then shattered like glass. The sound that followed was not metal hitting the ground. It was silence. Heavy, endless silence. The child dropped to her knees. The man rushed to her, catching her just before she collapsed. Her skin was hot now, burning. Her breathing was sharp and fast. "You used too much," he said. "I had to," she whispered. "They would have taken you too." He held her close, shielding her from the wind. One ship remained standing. Though it sparked and smoked, IT tried to lift off, but fell, crashing into the ice with a deep roar. Everything around them was broken now. Silent again, the man looked down at her. "Why didn't you let me fight?" "You can't stop them," she said. "But I can." "Not like this," he said. "You're hurting." She looked up at him, weak but alive. "If I don't stop them, more will come." He nodded slowly. "Then we prepare." She looked confused. "Prepare for what?" "For war." She smiled, tired. "You're strange for a human. And you're strong for a child." The storm began to calm, but both of them knew the peace would not last. The first wave had failed. The next wave would not be hunters, that IT would be warships. And this time, she wouldn't be able to stand alone, but she wouldn't have to. The child. Who chose the human? The silence that followed was sharp, heavy, and full of meaning. Snow settled over the broken field, covering the fallen soldiers and the smoking wreckage of the ship. The land looked peaceful again, but it was a lie. That peace came at a cost. The child lay weak in the man's arms. Her glow faded, her breath shallow. She had saved him, again. Saved herself. But the storm inside her was not over. The man gently wrapped her in what little warmth he had left. His coat was torn, soaked, and nearly useless, but he pulled it tight around her anyway. He sat with her under the edge of a frozen ledge, sheltering her small body from the falling snow. His mind raced, not with fear, but with clarity. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. She opened her eyes slowly. The color was softer now, like dying embers. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice dry. "I told you," he replied, his voice quiet but strong. "I'm not going anywhere." "You could run now," she said. "No one would stop you." He smiled gently. "You would." A weak laugh escaped her lips. "Maybe." She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "They will. Come again. Bigger ones. More ships. Not hunters. Judges." He frowned. "Judges?" She nodded. "They don't just take. They erase." The man looked to the sky. It was still. For now, he turned back to her. "Then we fight them." She reached for his hand. "You don't understand. They don't just erase people. They erase memories. Histories. Entire species. I was made for them. But I ran away." "And now?" he asked. She looked straight into his eyes. "Now? I choose." He didn't fully understand her words, but he felt them in his chest like a truth he had always known. "Choose what?" "You," she whispered. She placed her glowing hand over his heart. The light passed through his skin, and for the first time, he felt her pain. Not just the wounds, not the cold, but the weight, the loneliness, the knowledge that she had never been a child, never been free, never been herself. Until now that he didn't pull away. He let her share that pain, and in return, something grew inside him. A bond, stronger than blood, stronger than duty. "You're not just protecting me," she said. "You're changing me." He looked down at her. "You're more than they ever understood." She smiled again. "You're the first to say that." The snow outside the cave began to move, not with wind, but with force. Lights appeared again on the horizon. Dark shapes slowly moved across the valley, quiet and patient. They weren't ships. They were machines, thousands of them. Walking, scanning, preparing. She saw them first. Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "They found us." The man stood. "Can you fight?" She shook her head. "Not like before. That took too much. I need time." He gripped the rod again. "Then you rest. I'll hold them back." "You'll die?" He nodded. "Maybe." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she raised her hand and pressed it to his chest again. Her light spread into him, not like before. This time it didn't heal. It changed. His skin warmed. His eyes burned. His heart beat faster, stronger, Deeper, he gasped. What did you do? I shared, she said softly. You gave me trust. I gave you part of me. He felt it. Power. Not full, not complete, but enough, enough to stand, enough to fight. She fell back against the wall, breathing slowly. Go. I'll follow soon. He stepped outside, into the snow, his breath like fire. The machines had seen him now. They began to move faster, but so did he. And when they came, the child watched from the shadows as the man, her human, faced them alone. Not because he was the strongest, not because he wanted glory, but because she mattered, because she chose him. And he chose her back, as long as he stood, she would not be taken. And as long as she lived, he would never be forgotten. Not as prey, not as a protector, but as the first human ever to be chosen by a God-made child.